first, a little bit about Verve for those of you that don't know. Verve is a location-based mobile marketing platform, and we help brands connect with their desired consumers, tapping into the importance of location context and our ability to know consumers over time by watching their patterns of movement and really understanding what their needs are, inferring their needs and wants, and using those insights to match the right content, the right creative, so that they will actually drive the result that a brand seeks, whether it be sales, foot traffic, brand awareness, whatever their objectives are. We've been in the mobile advertising business since the beginning of mobile advertising for 11 years, very focused on location-based mobile. And so with that, we're constantly thinking about emerging trends and how the consumer is changing, how the devices are changing, how the relationship between those two things is evolving, and what we need to do to move ourselves forward, move our industry forward, and really help brands and advertisers to continue to connect with these consumers in this mobile context that's always evolving. And in particular, with mobile prodigies, who are the combination of the emerging and the older part of Gen Z and the younger part of the Millennials, thinking about these two kind of subsets of these two demographics as the original mobile experts, and really important to understand the ways that they are shaping the mobile industry. These are the folks that knew how to swipe and to scroll and to pinch a screen on their parents' device before they knew how to say their name, before they could recite the alphabet, before they could write anything. I mean, this is really important to understand that these are the folks that really don't know the world of a tethered phone hanging from the wall in their parents' kitchen. So we partnered with Wildness. It's an LA-based agency, a division of Awesomeness TV, and Wildness' exclusive mission is to help brands connect and stay connected with and stay relevant with youth culture. And so we worked with them to really understand these younger millennials, Gen Z, and their impact that they're having on the future of mobile advertising. And so how are they shaping our industry? So let's get into a couple of these things. First of all, it's really important to kind of set this up. They control between $250 and $650 billion in annual spending power already just in the United States. So it's very important for us to make sure that we're staying connected with these consumers. And at a high level, this audience certainly knows mobile's important. I am not going to be telling you anything new. And also, it's not that it's just important for our mobile prodigies. It's important really just more globally and universally for all demographics and for all consumers. So what's interesting, though, about the mobile prodigies is the uniqueness of this connection on their device, that in the mobile prodigies context, the mobile is not the second screen, which is often how mobile is positioned. Mobile is actually the first screen. And in fact, for so many of our mobile prodigies, mobile is often the only screen, where they can go for days, 2 and 3 and 4 days, reporting that they don't even need to have desktop, laptop, iPad, any other device, because they actually can live their entire lives on their mobile device. And that's really important, because then you think about the impact of how important that device is. One of them reported that they would rather lose, or 60% of them reported that they would rather lose their wallet than their mobile device. And when 60%, and when you really get into the essence of that and you say, well, what does that really mean? And we did tap into that. We said, well, why is that? And they said, well, in my wallet, I really only carry around about $20 with me at any time. I live my life in debit and credit. And it only really has my driver's license. And so I'm Gen X, and I thought, well, you're not worried about losing your driver's license. I'm like thinking you have to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles. That's a better experience for you, that you would actually choose that over losing your phone. And it was because their phone is giving them so much more. Their phone is, as we know, connecting them in the real world from an entertainment standpoint, of course, as we all know, but just functionally. It's how they're living their lives, for weather, for news, for sports, for all of these different things. One of them shared a story on a business trip. One of our younger millennials on a business trip left her phone on the airplane. It practically froze her. She didn't realize it until she got out into the terminal. She couldn't go back. She didn't get her phone. She didn't know how she was going to get home because she uses Uber all the time. So now she couldn't get her Uber car. She couldn't make a phone call, not because of the inconvenience of trying to find a payphone in the airport terminal, but because once she would have found a phone, she didn't know who to call because she didn't have a phone number. She hadn't memorized a phone number. She had never lived in a world where she actually needed to know a phone number. So all the phone numbers were in her phone. So it's so much more than just losing your photos and some of these other things that we use on our devices. But there were deeper elements of findings in this research about how they are shaping our industry from an app ecosystem standpoint, their demand for innovative content, and how they think about data usage and how they grant permission to use their data when we deliver relevance and reward. So first and foremost, the app ecosystem is alive and well. We live in a world where a lot of folks think that it's just really this duopoly of the families of Facebook and Google properties. And it is important to be including, of course, the various social platforms in anyone's media mix. But the whole point of a mix, or media mix, is that you have a mix. And so we were really understanding what else are they doing in the app economy. And we found, almost starting here at the bottom for a moment, 60% of our mobile prodigies download 1 or more apps weekly and 5 to 6 per month. So it's very important to think about mobile, as so many brands do, in the shopping context. And we all know that they're focusing on their owned properties with shopping apps and doing things to really enable a better experience, both digitally and physically in store. We also know that, of course, the different social platforms are an important part of that mix. Yet it is also important to think about all of the other opportunities to connect with these consumers. 95% of them are making purchases in store based on ads that they saw on a mobile device, which is amazing. And mobile is the primary screen for 56% of the users when they're at home starting a shopping search. And 61% do report that they buy in store based on a mobile ad at least monthly, and 40% of them actually reported buying in a store based on a mobile ad weekly. So it's very important when we're thinking about a broad mix of reaching these consumers to think about how we embrace the broader app ecosystem, because consumers and the mobile prodigies are going through this sense of discovery constantly. And when it comes to these apps, they're not only looking for entertainment in their lives, they are also looking for utility. So they're looking for ways to organize their contacts. They're looking for new ways to gather information about sports and news and other things going on in the world, in addition to the importance of their social connections. The time to reinvent mobile creative is now. It can't just be tweaked. It has to be fundamentally reimagined, reinvented. Our mobile prodigies are demanding much more innovative content. Now, the first few bullets here are certainly universal truths for our industry. It is always important and essential to grabbing attention to make sure that we have appealing aesthetic design, that we're non-intrusive, that there's some function and utility and the relevance that connects, that we're fun and imaginative from a creative standpoint. Yet there was something interesting that came through on a mobile prodigy perspective that was more than just this universal truth around the appeal of creative. There is this understanding that we are capturing so much data about them. They very much understand, particularly in our context, that we have knowledge of their location and that we have knowledge about what they're doing on their devices all the time, and that we have the ability to build up a better understanding of who they are, to deliver content that is not only personalized, it is so much more than just saying "Dear Julie" in the digital context, which right now for the mobile prodigies is simply being polite. It is about this predictive element of personalization and almost delivering a sense of anticipatory inspiration. How can we know them better than they know themselves? By using all of the data assets that are available to us, so that we can absolutely bring to them discovery and a sense of inspiration on products and services that would be appealing to them that they never even knew existed, that they never even knew they needed. And so they're expecting, in the quid pro quo type of a perspective, that if I'm sharing all of this information with you, you should be able to do way more than simply retarget me. And so they've gotten to this point of the sense of discovery and inspiration that they're looking for. And they are expecting this content then that dovetails contextually with what they are doing in that moment and what they do over time in the real world. They know we can see it, and they're expecting us to respond. And when we get it right, 42% will click on an ad. And high impact doesn't have to be intrusive. We tested a wide variety of creative ad formats in the mobile context, and these were 3, just very simply to walk you through, that scored very high with our mobile prodigies. And they're simple executions that just make sense. And these are the type that get results, that we can map back and see that, in fact, these types of mobile creative units drove traffic into a store and converted to sales when we closed the loop with various data third-partner attribution folks. So the 3D cube. Here you see this idea of a 3D cube on the phone. The idea with this unit is to tap into the features that are native on the device, the gyroscope, the accelerometer, and other native capabilities to introduce a much more interesting format for consumers and allow them, by tilting left, right, up, down, forward, backward, to explore the content in a way that makes sense. Why make them tap the screen when they can just move the phone around the way they do with so many other experiences on their device? And here, it also offers the advertiser the opportunity to perhaps show a product gallery on one side, to have a mobile coupon on another one that they can click on and then save into a wallet, or to have a video playing. So it just gives you a lot of creative freedom to introduce a much more interesting experience for the mobile prodigy. Smart Rise Video is an easy one. We all, who doesn't love video? We all understand the importance of video for consumers, and in particular for the mobile prodigies. And here, you see that this video piece, the clip rises up for 6 seconds. We know for video in the mobile advertising context, you have about 6 or 7 seconds of attention before you'll lose it. But here we're respecting that idea of it being non-intrusive, where the mobile prodigy can continue to consume the content that is core to that experience. In this case, we're demonstrating it in an anonymized way with a news app, but they can continue to consume their news while the video rises up and then drops back down. And then, of course, not playing the audio so that we can be respectful of the context of the location of where they are in any given moment. And then a very simple execution that is proving to demonstrate great results is not limiting ourselves creatively to the 320 by 50 banner at the bottom of an app experience, and really thinking about ways that, again, we can be fun and imaginative and really grab attention in a way that's not intrusive, but does bring together a more meaningful experience for the consumer. In this case, you saw the example of the bicycle riding across the screen. You can imagine an action hero from a movie running across the screen. You can imagine a product dropping down from the top of the screen into the banner. So there are a lot of other things that we can do to break out from the traditional baby banner, if you will, that has really been dominant in the mobile marketing context for recent years. And lastly, on data permission. With any of our consumers today, we know it's a very important topic around privacy and data security, and it's certainly no different with our mobile prodigies. Data permission, though, is granted through relevance and reward. And here's one of the things that's interesting about our prodigies. There is a sense that because they have grown up in a world and they've been sharing so much on social for their entire lives, and even before they were sharing, their parents were sharing about them on social, so they have been out there since the day they were born in the social context, that they are lackadaisical about the information that they're sharing. And that's really not true. We did not find that in the work that we did. And in fact, they're so informed that the bar is much higher for how we use the data that they're willing to share. Now, they're not paranoid, as I mentioned, like they're the boomers before them, or even, say, Gen X. There isn't this skepticism of the big brother attitude, but again, they're not lackadaisical about it either. There is very much this expectation for tailored ads to them that recognize not only their location, but their interests and their hobbies and their habits over time. And they absolutely prefer content and ads that are customized to their current activity, and to be respectful of what that activity is, and to map the creative that they get and the content that they're receiving to this understanding of what they're doing at any given moment. They do prefer ads that are customized to their location, and they will share sensitive data when they are presented with more relevant content. But if it's not relevant to them, they shut you down. So it's also really important to think about that, because we're all relying on these data assets to better understand who these consumers are. And with AR and VR and natural interfaces and the Internet of Things, location insights is almost going to become ubiquitous. Location is being transmitted from all of these different points and being brought together and connected to a mobile device ID, so we really can understand the fullness and richness of a consumer completely and observe their movement throughout their day in the real world. And by understanding all of that, this idea of really giving them the relevance that they want, if they don't get it, they'll shut you off. And they're very knowledgeable about going into location services on their phones and turning it on and off based on how they feel that that particular brand and that particular app is serving them relevance. And they really need to understand it. So even with things like Waze, they understand why location is important, but they'll turn it off when they're not using it because they feel that the app drains their battery too quickly. So they even have knowledge about how location data points, when they're being transmitted, is either giving them a good experience or is actually contributing to a pain point in their life. For a lot of the shopping apps or for some of the other apps, they don't understand location until you explain how it might be able to bring them a better shopping experience in store, or better promotions, or better information about a product, and then they'll turn it on. So they just need to have transparency in very simple and crystal clear language for why you're using the information that they're willing to share with you, and make sure that we give them control to tweak those settings according to what makes sense in their life.